see the New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is May 23rd, 2012. Or excuse me, 2013. Listen to me, I'm a year behind. It's 2013, not 2012. Anyway, yes, I took yesterday off, and I needed it. I needed to get caught up on some stuff. I've been trying to get the archives for the shows up on YouTube and up on federaljack.com, and I've been trying to get caught up with shows. I think I have like 6 or 7 interviews that I've literally done off-air that I want to air for you guys, but I can't because I have to edit them up and everything. So I'm just trying to get all that stuff done. And life has a tendency to get in the way, so I needed yesterday off to be able to collect my thoughts and be able to get actually some work done. So I actually wasn't really taking the day off. I just needed to allot myself that extra 2 hours to get into things. So I will be getting the archives and stuff caught up. It's, like I said, it's just a ton of work I've been doing. Anyway, tonight I want to introduce my guest really quick before we go to break, because we only have about a minute and a half before the break comes up, quick first segment. And then I want to dive right into it because tonight's topic is really super important. So tonight my guest is someone who's been on the show before, contributor to the broadcast, and she will be coming back on more often. She's a writer at Activist Post, and I know she's got a new site going. I'm going to have her plug all her stuff. Let's welcome back Heather Callaghan. Heather, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first and foremost, I wanted you to plug all your stuff because I know you have a new site going, I think, and I know you're still writing over at Activist Post. So we got about 45 seconds before we go to break. Plug all your stuff where everybody can check your work out, and especially your new article because we're going to be talking about that tonight.
If you go to activistpost.com, I'm pretty sure it's still the first article up. It's what I consider breaking news is major First Amendment violations in the courtroom for Vernon Hershberger's trial about raw milk. And nobody is allowed to say liberty, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. So you can see me at activistpost.com, and I'm also a part of a new website called naturalblaze.com, as in blazing a path to natural health.
Awesome. Go check it out, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely go to Activist Post because the article that Heather's going to be mentioning is there, right on the front. So go to the front, look at her article. You'll see it's right by Heather Callaghan. Click on it and get ready. You got a minute. When we come back, we're going to be diving into it. Food freedom. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Tonight's guest, my friend Heather Callaghan. She's a writer over at Activist Post. She just started another site, or started working with another site, Natural Blaze, I think it was, you said, Heather.
Yes.
And I know you're a very smart lady. You and I have had some long on-air and off-air conversations about, the whole vast array of things that's going on. But let's focus on your article right now, and we can go wherever, because I know you're very intelligent. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to check her work out on Activist Post and follow her. She's on the ball. I'm telling you. You know I only promote people that know what they're talking about. Heather's one of these people. So Heather, your newest article, it's related to food freedom. And is this the farmer that was going up against Monsanto, or is this the guy that was with the raw milk? Because there's so many of them getting prosecuted.
Yes.
I've actually lost count.
It takes me forever to sift through all the details. There's been a couple farmers recently who have been raided, and of course it's during all this food freedom events, so I can't even get to them yet. A lot of them are Amish, not necessarily all of them, but this guy has been through battle for about 3 years now, and this thing is being dragged out, and this is the big culmination this week. And tomorrow we should have a verdict. It's a big case, and he's been through raids. He's been through agency destruction of his food. He's been to court so many times, but he's got so much support. But this time he's facing 2 years in prison and $10,000 in fines for everything related to feeding his community, which is what I call it.
That's just absolutely outrageous. I mean, a farmer... Well, first of all, why are we going after farmers in any litigious fashion whatsoever? If they're not causing food poisoning, or they're not doing like what these food manufacturers in China did, knowingly, put whatever, melamine powder or whatever the hell it was in the food. Why are we going after farmers in the Amish? Why are we SWAT teaming Amish for raw milk? I mean, is this not a waste of time just in general?
You would think so, and a lot of people like to say they're these morons and they're taking our taxpayer money and going after these people. No, this is deliberate aggression. This is, in my mind, an act of war, and it's been compared to an act of war by a lot of my food freedom heroes who are out there with Vernon Hershberger. Because in any civilization all throughout history, you've always seen destruction of food and seizure of land and property and farming and deconstructing all of that stuff so everything can be centralized. If you really want to take it all the way up, it's all coming down from Codex Alimentarius, which is by the UN. And it sounds hard to believe because we're talking about these little local places everywhere. But why is it all happening at the same time everywhere? How do all these agencies and lawyers and like the FDA or even the little town bureaucrats, how do they all know to strike and do the same thing at the same time?
Because it's coordinated. It's a coordinated effort. That's why. Most people don't even know what Codex Alimentarius is, Heather.
I have a hard time understanding it myself, but...
Well, it's not a new concept. It's actually a very old concept. It's something that was designed by the elites, actually. Ooh, big surprise. Okay, didn't work back the first time they tried it. Ain't gonna work the second time. All it does is kill people. And the fact that there's actually SWAT team members that will go and raid, family holistic stores, and people don't think that that's not going to happen. Under Codex, stores like GNC, Vitamin Shop, all these big name, even the bigger brand name places, they'd be pushing quote-unquote illegal drugs. And they'd be getting raided by SWAT teams and probably the Army, National Guard. People would be getting shot at the registers because, hey, vitamin C? You can't have that. Didn't they outlaw B12, Heather? Isn't it B12 or one of the B shots you can't get anymore, you can't buy?
I hadn't heard about that one, but I know, well, first of all, there's different ways they can take them, they can ban them, they come up with their own so they can patent them. And they adulterate them. Like vitamin B12 supposedly is fake. Most forms of it are fake. Synthetic vitamins actually do a lot of harm to your body, and then those are the ones that they add to children's cereals and try to make them look healthy. So it's at all levels. And yes, the scenario that you described, I just want to agree with you on that, because actually those things have already taken place. As what I said before on the show before, when we were talking about Morning Dairy, who they had to dump, oh man, I don't even remember, tons and tons and tons of cheese. Well, Europe has already had a ban. This was in 2010. So, you can't make colloidal silver over there. You can't sell a lot of the vitamins and herbs over there. It was a sweeping ban straight from the UN. And they want it here, but a lot of people here are very particular about that stuff, so they're doing it a little more gradually over here.
Frogs in the pot. They have to, because if they yanked it like they did over in the UK, people would flip out. But here, there's a lot more people into holistic medicine and stuff like that, so they'll gradually go after it. They'll go one by one. They'll find a reason why something's bad for you. Oh, you can't have this, or look, the FDA went after Cheerios because they said it improved your heart health by eating oats and stuff like that. Now, Cheerios, to be fair, does use GMO foods, so I wouldn't eat any of their stuff because it probably doesn't promote heart health, but that's not why the FDA went after them. The FDA just said you can't say that it's good for your heart to eat that stuff. So, because they don't, we don't have the findings or whatever their long dragged out excuse was. Basically, they just said no. So then they went after Cheerios. Remember, they were they were busting their chops a couple years ago. They threatened to make them a drug if they kept that claim on their boxes. So they'll waste their time going after Cheerios for that, but not the genetically modified crap that's actually in the food. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
And it's done on purpose. This raw milk thing, like me and you have said before. Even if you don't like it or you believe all dairy is bad, hey, that's fine with me. And in fact, if I didn't like it, I would still be just as passionate about this, because like Ron Paul said, first they came for the raw milk drinkers. Vegans, you're next, So and it's not just raw milk that these herd share programs or co-ops are providing. We're talking about organic and local. And, now we're seeing community gardens ripped up by cities. We're seeing people thrown in jail for feeding homeless. Lemonade stands are shut down, and I could go on and on and on. So this isn't an accident. It's done for a reason. And if you look at things like, a lot of people are into cannabis benefits, and we've done a lot about that on naturalblaze.com, shrinking tumors and all these amazing things. They're starting to treat raw milk like that, and it probably should tell you that it's really good for you. And it actually is. It's so sustainable that, because you can take it and make any other product with it. You don't have to keep going back to the store. It doesn't really go bad. It is healing, but nobody is allowed to mention that in the courtroom. There's a list of things they're not allowed to say during this trial. And I was actually kind of blown away by that, because I thought they were going after him, but I didn't know they would go this far. I probably shouldn't be surprised.
Wait, hold on. Rewind for a second. I didn't know this. There's a list of things that they can't say in the courtroom. I mean, the judge already came out with his little list of the words he won't tolerate in his courtroom?
Yes.
Was it printed on Monsanto letterhead?
Well, not only that, he's telling the jury, this is going to really make you mad, because I know how you feel about jury and jury nullification and informed jurors. He's telling the jury how to vote. He's telling them what to think. He's telling them what to listen to, what to strike out. He's also shooing them out of the room all the time during this case if he feels that anyone is going to say anything that they're not supposed to hear.
I have an issue when judges do that. I have
I know.
Big problem with that. This is why court and the court system, the way people have to understand how the court system works and how things actually work. The Constitution, again, Black's Law Dictionary, UCC, because this is how all this is being perpetrated. These judges are just, I swear to God, they you can't vote, you can't, you cannot think like this in my courtroom. You in your little meeting, when you have your little sequester with you and the rest of your group, you're just going to all vote the way I tell you to, and that's it, because I'm the judge. I can't stand that. Then why even have the jury? Just get rid of, why have the facade of having a jury? What's the point? Just get rid of it.
I agree. They select them the way they select them and telling them how to vote, and then most of the jury people that are picked, unless somebody came up to them with a jury handout, which they're not allowed to do, even though you are allowed to do that outside a courtroom, you'll probably get arrested. These people, they hear the judge, he's the authority figure, and he says you have to vote according to the law. What I'm going to tell you later is that no matter what, in this situation, they made it so that he's a lawbreaker. They're accusing him of something that he can't provide for them. They're saying he's unlicensed, and you can't get a license in Wisconsin to provide raw milk. This is going to be an example to everybody. They're already going around eradicating herd share programs because they caught on real quick about what people were doing, entering into private agreements, just like you would in Craigslist, co-ops. Some people compare herd sharing to horse boarding. You enter into an agreement with a farmer, and it's so that you can take ownership. You're actually part ownership of that. And you're just paying him for the care of your animal. And I'm in one of these. I know how they work. But also I want to tell you, in the state where I am, it's very difficult now. So I've lost my access. And if I do go and get it, I'm breaking the law. Literally. Because I crossed the state line with it.
That's just ridiculous. Really, for food, it's gotten to the point where you have to smuggle food in. When in the 80s, when all these dystopian future movies were out, especially the crappy, B-rated ones, everybody blew them off. Oh, that movie is such crap. Like that would ever happen. Well, we're there. We're on the way down the slippery slope into this dystopian, tyrannical society where, hey, you can't have raw food because it might be bad for you. It's not the government's job to tell you. And if you think it is, you need to pull your head from inside your rear end because it's firmly planted there, okay? They have no right to tell you what you can put in your body. Doesn't matter if you drop dead. So what? It's you. That's the one thing that blows my mind. We're protecting you, so we're going to beat you in the face with these, with these batons and tase you and possibly cause a heart attack.
Yeah, and you saw how they ran into Rawson Foods 3 years ago with guns drawn. And even Stephen, is it Colbert?
Colbert, I think is
Colbert.
Yeah.
He did one of these classic videos on it because he was shocked, and Jon Stewart's doing the same thing now because it really can't be suppressed. Of course, they're probably there to make everyone laugh about it, like it's okay, to diffuse the situation, but it does bring it out into people's mind. But what I can't understand is why a vast majority of people will say, well, it is dangerous and it is their job to protect public safety. But here's the thing. If you don't do it or drink it, how is it hurting you if somebody else wants to? And
it's a non-crime. There is no victim. Because
there were no complaints.
Well, there's no victim. Look, the person who goes and gets it is making that decision as a free individual to drink the milk. If you get sick from it or whatever, that's your issue on an individual level. You don't have the right to go after everybody because maybe you had a reaction to it, or maybe you think you'll have a reaction to it, or you think it's icky. That's one of the biggest problems is I don't like it because I think it's gross or icky defense a lot of politicians with everything from food to tattoos. I'm going to cut us off because the break is sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with my guest tonight, Heather Callaghan, in just a few short minutes. Go check her out on activistpost.com. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. By the way, when Heather said earlier, she mentioned the UN. A lot of people would go, the UN? Are you kidding me? What's the UN got to do with it? Well, the UN's got everything to do with it, just like they got their fingers in education, just like I've talked about with Charlotte Iserby, where all these school guidelines come from UNESCO. Where do you think the idea for getting rid of script and cursive came from? Why do you think that is? Let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen, just for a quick side segment, really quick. Ponder this, just for uno momento. What is written in cursive that if one doesn't know how to read or write cursive, one will definitely not understand it and need a translator? Well, that would be the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence and many, many other historical documents. Oh, that's right. So if they don't teach you how to read it or write it, you're not going to know how to read it or write it, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to look at that document, one of the founding documents, and you're going to be a drooling moron because you won't know, or at least your kids won't, because they're not being taught cursive. Now, where do you think that comes from? All that stuff comes from UNESCO, the UN guidelines, the same people pushing Codex Alimentarius, the same people pushing Agenda 21. This all dovetails into one another, okay? And it's not that some moron bureaucrat at the UN is in charge. No. The UN is their apparatus for pushing their one world government, and that's how they're going to run it, at least for right now. I'm sure they would refine it and, screw over certain nation states here or there down the road, but for right now, to get it going, that's the UN is like the driver's seat, we'll say, of this one world government organization. That's why they use the UN to push all these stupid agendas. And see, when they go a little too fast and the frogs start to realize, the water's getting a little hot, Heather, we need to jump out. Nope. Then what they do is they turn it down and they let it get cold again, and all the frogs go, oh, look, see? They heard us bitch that the water was getting hot and they turned it down. And everybody goes back to doing whatever they're doing, and then they slowly crank the heat up again. It's the way they do it. And people aren't paying attention. And this stuff, what Heather's writing about, is really, really scary. At least, to me, this stuff is reminiscent of exactly what has happened in the past in Stalin's Russia, in Nazi Germany. They come and they take the food, they take control of the land. Do I see tyranny forming? What say you, Heather?
I say you summed it up perfectly. And it's been going on for a long time, and you're so right about the gradual boiling process, but they're getting antsy now. They're getting aggressive, and they don't care anymore. And it's not like, I always say that if any of these scumbags comes out and says, oh, we're sorry, apology unaccepted. They don't even do that anymore. Not that it would matter. They don't care. They just run over people now. And they kind of know that to a certain extent, everyone's going to accept it. Because, a lot of us are peaceful. It's, not going to hopefully ever get to that point. But I don't know, it's getting to the point where with the food thing, they're picking on all the peaceful ones first, until it comes to your door, which it very well could because of some directives that the president signed in the last 2 years. It's all going to be allocated to them.
Well, they wanted Congress, and when I say they, by they I mean Monsanto, wanted Congress, and I don't know if it passed or not, but I remember they were trying to outlaw growing, I don't think it passed from what I remember, but they were trying to get a bill pushed to outlaw growing your own food on your patio. Like, that would be a criminal offense. A SWAT teamable offense. So, like, that family that just got raided like a month ago because they bought hydroponic equipment, which that story is one of my favorites because they weren't being watched. Like, the cops weren't watching them for another reason and saw them buying hydroponic equipment. They bought the equipment, and the cops were monitoring who purchased equipment. And because they bought hydroponic equipment to grow it in their house, they weren't growing cannabis. They were actually growing, like, tomatoes and stuff. They got SWAT team raided, and it turned out to be nothing but vegetables. Does anybody get an apology? Oh, maybe we should change our tactics up. Nope. No changing of the tactics. So that tells you that it's not a oopsie, we made a mistake. That tells you that it's policy. Well, then where's that policy coming from? That's what you need to pay attention to. Okay, it's called a pattern. And when they come out and they say, well, it was a mistake, it's BS, and they're lying to you. Okay, it's that simple. I'm going to cut us off because we got a break sneaking up on us. When we get back, we're I want to get more into Heather's article in this case because there is so much to it, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned. Go check out the article on activistpost.com. We'll be right back. So, a list of words you can and cannot say in the courtroom. As I said, I wonder if it's typed up on Monsanto letterhead. Would not surprise me. But, I mean, how extensive is this list, Heather? Is it is it really that absurd?
I think so. Let's see what you and the listeners think. The article that Popeye is talking about mentions in the headline liberty. The word liberty is not allowed to be used. Is that irony? I don't know. I might be getting the word irony wrong here, but I mean, we're talking about being able to say what you need to say in the courtroom, and you're not allowed to say liberty. And because what happened is he has 3 defense lawyers, possibly including himself being number 4, and they were cross-witnessing or cross-referencing some things or talking to witnesses, and the defense attorney, because Vernon is on the defense, said you started talking about liberty or his personal liberty or things relating to that, and the prosecution is objecting to everything they say. And so the judge ruled, he kept saying sustained. Basically, Judge Reynolds is saying sustained to the prosecutors, which is the state, by the way, and he'll say sustained, and then when the defense attorney says something like objects to something that the prosecutor is doing, like mishandling the truth, which is because I'll tell you what they're actually trying to do to Vernon, but then the judge will be like overruled. So he's clearly biased to the prosecuting side, which is the state. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to smear Vernon. They're trying to magically turn Vernon into a retail establishment. That is not what he is. There's a complete difference. There's a legal line in the sand that he is not doing retail, and he is not an establishment. And if he were to be, there'd be no way he could do what he does anyway. Like I said, there's no licenses available. So they're just really trying to corner him. I mean, it's really up against him. So the Judge Reynolds ruled in the prosecution's favor before the trial even started that there will be no discussion of whether Hershberger had criminal intent in not obtaining a license, no discussion of the safety of raw milk or the health.
Well, hold on. The first one, right off the bat, that should nullify if the jury understood jury nullification, that would be a nullifier right there. Okay?
Right.
The first one, what that you can't have you are just I can't even. I'm sorry. Go on.
Yes. Yeah, and of course.
In fact, go ahead. You know what? Repeat that again. Start from the beginning.
Okay.
Because I know I cut you off. Start from the beginning again. Go ahead. Repeat the first one because again, here's the jury nullifier.
Okay. They are not allowed to discuss whether Hershberger had criminal intent in not obtaining a license.
Do you understand what that means, ladies and gentlemen? They can't discuss if he had criminal intent. If there was even a crime committed, was he trying to commit a crime? That's the basis of prosecution. Was he committing a crime or was he not committing a crime? They won't even allow discussion of whether or not he had any intent to break the law. That's like the basics of your defense. So it should be nullified instantly. Sorry, Heather, go on.
Oh, no, I'm so glad you pointed that out because maybe I'll try to emphasize that more because that is a very important thing. I mean, actually, when you think about it, the entire thing hinges on that. But also, what I picked out from that in not obtaining a license, like I keep saying, he can't. So if there's no law either way about it, what law did he break? I mean, he can't obtain a license to provide raw milk and cheese and dairy and eggs and meat to people. He can't do that. And
if it doesn't exist, how are you supposed to, like, how's he breaking the law if he can't get the license? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
right.
How is that? So they're they're literally inventing laws that aren't even on the books that they're prosecuting him for, basically? Or is this law on the books, but they're going after him based, like, the fact that he broke it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
You know, I know a lot of people don't care for Ayn Rand, but one of her quotes came up for this big time. If you want, I can quote it later if you want or whenever. But it's about, she predicted 50 years ago that we would have a society where it's the innocent who need to be punished by making them lawbreakers, by creating so many complicated laws that nobody can help but be a lawbreaker, because there's no gain in having a society of do-gooders. Because I believe that most people are inherently don't want to hurt anyone, don't want to break the law. They just want to go about their own business. But
well, it's true, they don't. Most people are good. This is something that was covered the other day. On Tuesday, I played a clip from Larkin Rose. And he was talking about, I think it's his wife that was reading what he had typed up, but they were talking about this whole basic same concept, and how it relates to anarchy, that everybody is really genuinely good and you don't need the government to make people be good. You know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't need, as human beings, an outside agency to say, John Smith, you can't go and punch, Bobby, in the face. That's against the law, and if you punch Bobby in the face, you're going to go to jail. You shouldn't do violence against him. That should be instilled in you by your parents and the people around you who help raise you, like the village, like tribes do. You don't see a lot of the problems that we have in our society today, and a lot of these tribes that are out in the woods, and I'm not saying it's because they don't have technology. I know there's a lot of different things in there, but a lot of it is because they raise their kids. They don't have like an outside tyrannical source. They don't look to some outside source outside of the woods to raise them. You know what I mean? They don't look to some source hundreds of miles away. They take care of things themselves. If we just even applied the slightest bit of that to our lives, it's amazing what would happen. You wouldn't need these government agencies to come out and you don't. First of all, we don't need them. That's one. Okay, that's just ridiculous. This is all about money. Let's be honest. I mean, look what you made a good point. You said that they're literally trying to hold him like he's a merchant, and that's important because of the wording that's used. Merchant. Now, again, what does that go back to? UCC, all this stuff. The Black's Law Dictionary. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to get that book to understand any of the legalese or anything that gets thrown around and understand what's actually going on. That's why the judge is just basically taking over and running things. He's already been bought off by the other side. Okay? He's obviously biased. For whoever, it would not surprise me one bit to find out if there was some corporation on the back end that was pumping money either A to the judge, B to the prosecutor, or C to both. Would not surprise me.
I really hope something happens to touch the jury members. And, there's been a lot of ups and downs in this trial, but a lot of things that are coming out probably strike them as absurd because of how long they're dragging it out. And, for instance, even the original inspector woman, Jackie Owens, her credentials are even questionable. And there is a video. If you follow one of the links in my articles at the bottom, you can watch the video because Vernon's kids knew to get a camera and record her while she barged in and started inspecting the place. And she's the typical picture of what you would picture a woman agent like this, not very pleasant at all. And she's blurring the facts. When she won't answer a question directly in the courtroom, she's dragging this out. But even she admitted that there's no law against raising your own animals and having the food and drink that comes from them. And they're admitting things under oath. Some of the agents, one of them admitted that they knew they were destroying their personal food, not just the food for the community members, but they did it anyway. And she admitted that she knew they were destroying personal. Yeah,
and
exactly.
So if she admitted that under oath, that means that it's now like on record that they destroyed personal property. So
there you go.
If I were the attorneys, I would also bring up a separate suit and go after them for personal damages. Now, hey, you willingly and willfully destroyed personal property. No, I didn't. Oh, really? Well, then, if you lied on stand, then you perjured yourself. So which is it? Either you perjured yourself, and that's a big no-no, and you get in trouble for that, or you did it, and you should get sued and brought to court. Okay, and in front of your peers, in front of a real jury, not some jury like this garbage that's obviously being tainted, and so. I mean, it should be one or the other. It would be great if the person didn't want to go to court and they'd rather perjure themselves. Oh, cool, good. That would be great. That would be helpful for him, but that won't happen. And it's just absolutely disgusting. It really is. It's disgusting behavior.
Yeah, and it seems like in all these cases, the judge is always going to go with the state or the big corporation, like in these Monsanto cases. But in this one, it's like, I feel like the judge and the state agencies are on the same team. It's very clear to me from reading all the details. They're siding with the state. They're telling the jury what they can hear, what they can't hear. They're telling the attorneys, only the one attorney, only Vernon's attorneys, what they can and cannot say. But there's no accountability on the other side at all. So how is this even a fair case? That's why it's like I get so angry that I almost have to detach and say that this isn't going to matter, because no matter what happens, this is like the shot heard around the world for food freedom. So no matter how it ends up, either he's going to go free due to jury nullification, and it's going to be fine for a while until the next fire starts, or it's going to start a storm. It really is. And Vernon is so peaceful, and he's a man of faith, which is why he's standing up and doing this. He doesn't even have to do this. He has given 3 years of his life to this because he's going to stand up and fight it, when he could have just settled or taken the guilty plea or just ducked out of it. He is doing this for all of you, and he disobeyed. He civilly disobeyed a holding order on all his food. He cut the tape and gave it to people, and he may have continued doing his membership agreement, but he first he agreed with them when they threw him in jail on bond, and then he went home and he prayed, and he decided that this was wrong. It would be wrong for him to obey. That's what he said. It would be wrong for him to obey the court and not feed his neighbors.
It would be wrong. Absolutely wrong.
And I think, I don't know if he quoted this Bible verse, but one that a lot of people who cherish liberty and don't just swing to whatever the media or whoever tells them what to think, this is a verse that's quoted. In fact, FEMA does not want churches quoting this verse. That's a whole nother discussion. It's in Acts, and it's, we must obey God rather than men. And this was, these were the Christians who were being thrown in jail and sometimes tortured or killed. And they still went out and did it.
It reminds me of what Jefferson said. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God.
That's right. It really is in this case. And so Vernon, he's been really peaceful and in good spirits despite the ups and downs, especially today. It was kind of a down day. But you can see him, if you look at all these different Facebook updates, you can see him smiling with people. You've got all the food freedom people jumped in a plane or jumped in their car, did whatever they could to rush out and be there for him. So my hats are off to them.
That's what we need to do. We need to, grassroots people need to support him, because that's how we're going to change things, is from the ground up. Heather, I'm going to stop us right there. I want to get into how we can help him when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. More with my guest, Heather Callaghan. Check her newest article out about what we're talking about tonight over on activistpost.com. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of the first hour, but we still have a second hour, and Heather's going to be joining me for the full second hour, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. But I want to get into, right now, I want to focus on how we can help this man, because I know he's got a family, and he's being taken away from, his family by dealing with all this crap right now, and then, he can't provide for them. They had their own food taken away from them, which is criminal. You literally have the government starving citizens inside of its own country. Any questions about whether or not that's tyranny, ladies and gentlemen? But how can we help him, Heather? What can we do to help this guy out? Because he needs all the help we can get. How can we make this more of an issue and get more people pissed off about this? Because that's what needs to happen.
Okay. Yes. The biggest way right now, something that you have control over right now, is to share any information that you find about this stuff with your friends and family and with other people. Usually it's like, I guess sometimes it's like preaching to the choir, but once in a while you'll start piquing people's curiosity, because they're not going to hear about this in the news. They're going to hear the one side. And most people will think, oh, well, he shouldn't be doing that. He's breaking the law. Or, oh, that's a public safety risk, or whatever. So, but when I've talked to some of my friends about it, sometimes that was the turning point for them to get a better handle on their life and even get a hold of some of this stuff. And then I've got people asking me all the time, where do I find this stuff? And I can help you with that too. But that would be the one thing. And the other thing is to spread information far and wide about jury nullification, because it has saved some of these farmers. For instance, one of them, he's still going through battles. He was the one that I believe you and I discussed who was under double jeopardy, a form of double jeopardy, which, by the way, the government passed a law that double jeopardy isn't really double jeopardy, so you can be tried twice. There's a loophole there. So they're trying this guy twice for a court battle he just got through. What happened was people in Minnesota really know their jury rights, and his supporters spread the word so far and wide, this is Alvin Schlangen, that they got on the jury stand, they listened to everything, the judge told them how to vote, they still said not guilty, even though the judge was like, he's supposed to be guilty based on breaking a law, and they said not guilty. So basically they said he didn't break a law, even though technically he did, but they don't care because they said he was not guilty. And so hopefully that saves him again, because that's coming up as well, and actually may have already passed, because all this stuff is happening at the same time. So the more people you inform about that, the more it spreads, the more that these bad laws might even go away, and these people will get off the stands and they'll get out of jail. Then the next thing is, if you look at my article, there is a donation link to Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. These guys are the ones paying for his fantastic legal defense. They fly people out. They have hotlines. This defense fund, this nonprofit, is built just for farmers like this, because this problem is so rampant. And they help people who are sued by Monsanto. They help farmers who get raided. Sometimes sheriffs come by and arrest them. Maybe their cows got loose. I wrote about that one time. And they will send somebody out to help them. So when they get donations, that's where the money goes to their legal funds, because they can't pay for this by themselves. And yes, he is married. He has 10 kids. He has a farm to run. He's devoted the last 3 years of his life to this when he didn't have to. And if he gets thrown in prison, it's going to be very hard for them. So anything that you could do to help, and if you don't have anything to spare and you don't want to do it that way, do it another way. Just start sharing the info. Maybe see about looking into co-ops in your area or herd share programs. Support them. Then they will be stronger. They will have a reason to keep providing this food. Maybe you could even organize your own, or organize a drop-off, or organize your own co-op, or get discounts through a delivery service. They're out there. Those are just 3 forms of activism right there.
I agree. People need to get active, and they need to get really pissed off. And then seriously, you need to investigate these cases, and we need to look further so that more of these things can't continue to happen. We need to head this off of the past. Like I said to you earlier, there's so many of them happening, it's literally hard to keep track anymore. I mean, there's so much going on to begin with, but there's just on, if you look on any front in general, every front, it's just this onslaught of tyranny, no matter where you look. But on the food front, really hardcore. Food and medicine. Again, Codex Alimentarius, UN. And of course, it's not like Ban Ki-moon or whoever's in charge now. None of these people coming up with it in their office by themselves, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, please. That's not how it works, okay? If you've learned anything from ever listening to this broadcast, you ought to know better than that. I'm going to cut us off, Heather. We have the top of the hour break coming up, but have no fear, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back in about a minute, so don't go anywhere. And when we get back, we're going to get more into solutions, and I'm going to stay focused on food freedom a little bit, and we're going to go down a few other avenues. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. It is May 23rd, 2013. Look, I got the year right this time. Hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to stay focused on the insanity that is this case against this farmer. Heather, you were saying that there's a list, and we were going over the list of insane things that cannot be said in the courtroom. For those of you that are joining us here fresh in hour number 2 that did not hear hour number 1, go back and listen to the archives any way, shape, or form you can. But for those of you that are just joining us, Heather was reading a list of insane things that could not be even mentioned in the courtroom, including the word liberty, which is kind of ironic, I do believe. And I do believe that would be the correct use of the term irony. That you in a court where you're trying to battle for your freedom, you can't utter the word liberty, which means freedom.
Yes. And you can't say raw milk in a trial about raw milk. That's another thing on the list.
So what are they calling it then when they're saying that, like, what he supposedly did wrong? I have to ask this.
I don't know. I haven't seen what they're allowed to say. I mean, in my mind, maybe unpasteurized, maybe something like that. Maybe they're just smearing it. I don't know, but they can't talk about its safety. They have to be really vague.
Who presented this list? Was it the judge or was it the prosecution?
The prosecution went to the judge. This happens a lot, and the judge agreed, and then ruled before the trial started that there's no talking about the criminal intent, no talking about, no discussion of the safety of raw milk, and no discussion even of why his farm was raided in 2010. Well, that's a clincher. This whole thing hinges on the initial raid, raw milk being a safety threat. If it's being sold, which it's not literally being sold to people. By the way, there was no...
Again, they're choosing by being part of a co-op that they sign up for and pay into however they do. They are choosing their own free will, mind you, which we all have from the time of inception. Okay, when we come out and we start crawling around and pooping in our diapers, guess what? We have free will, okay? And last time I checked, once you don't have your parents, up your rear end telling you what to do and you're out on your own, you are pretty much allowed to ingest whatever you want, okay? As long as you're not killing somebody else or violating somebody else's natural law rights, if you're not breaking natural law, you're not harming anybody, then there's no crime, okay? It's the system that criminalizes people so that they can get you in it and make money off of you. Okay? That's the way it works. You are a commodity. Understand that. Like Jordan Maxwell said, okay, and it's not only his research, but he stated, you are a commodity bought and sold and traded on the stock exchange. It's that simple. That's why you have a certificate of live birth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, break coming up. Don't go anywhere when we get back. Nice long segment. I want to get back into the craziness of things you can't say in the judge's courtroom. All right, we are back. Nice long segment. So the list of words that cannot be uttered: raw milk, liberty. Again, you're in a fight for your freedom, and you can't mention a word that means freedom. I mean, is the word freedom allowed too, or no?
I wonder if it's one of those word games where you can't say the wrong word or it buzzes you, and you have to try to say another word. And someone suggested them saying natural milk instead.
Why don't they just give the prosecutor one of the big red buzzers from one of these like late 70s, early 80s game shows, and just or just give it to the judge, because he's obviously going to rule in the prosecution's favor. And like I said to you during the break, it makes me wonder where the prosecution got the list of words that can't be said. And you made a good point. You said, well, you never know. It could have been the FDA, right? Well, that would actually probably be something that would make sense. You know, the FDA or some, agency, therein, related to whatever, going to them and saying, here's the list of things that, shouldn't be brought up or can't be brought up, and they push it in court. Well, that would make sense how they would get it. But when you hear the FDA, you must think Monsanto, because that's what I think. When I think the FDA, I think Monsanto, because it's a revolving door. Go look at who runs the FDA and all these people that are in charge over there in different, positions of power along their the higher ups over there. They all rotate in and out of Monsanto and Pfizer and all these other big companies.
That's right.
It's disgusting. I mean, really, they're protecting us, Heather. And
we pay them for safety, and they let 20,000 people a year die from drugs that they approved as safe. So it's like an agency needs to be fired here, because we're paying them and they're hurting us. We're paying them to hurt us. We're paying them to hurt farmers and do these $1 million sting operations and spy on them and raid them at 5 a.m. in the morning. And close down these farms and close down the local economy. There's a bunch of restaurants and people depending on Vernon that can't have this stuff anymore while this is going on. There's restaurants that can't provide the food that their whole restaurant is based on, because they're waiting for this to be over with, and hopefully they still can do it. So they don't mind closing down businesses or ruining people's lives. And also, you got to wonder, why would a judge want to close out these important arguments that kind of need to be displayed if you want the whole story and the truth? The judge is closing his ears to this, and I have some more information about that. I have information about a witness that they put on the stand, and the judge said to the jury, don't listen to that. That's part of why I say he's telling them what to think and hear and what to believe in. And by the way,
that's not the first time that I've seen this little tactic in court. But I mean, how do you honestly? I have to interject this for a second, and then I'll shut up and let you continue. But how does anybody look at this whole process any further after the first time that happens as a legitimate, real court or display of law? Anything? I don't even want to call it a court. Maybe the court jester. How do you not look at this whole thing as a sham when you see that, no, you can't hear certain evidence, you people are instructed to not listen to what this person said, or blah, blah, blah. I mean, I understand if it's an outburst in court or something like that. I understand if it's an extenuating circumstance. But literally, when it's the guy's defense, how do you look at this like it's legitimate in any way, shape, or form? It frustrates me. And it irritates me, because it's anybody that doesn't see this, it's rigged against this guy from the get-go. They already made their decision what they're going to do. This whole thing is really just for show. It's more to show what other farmers don't F with us, or we're going to do the same thing to you. Yeah, it's an example. They're setting an example, but we've also got a lot of people watching them, and so I bet you anything they're sweating, because this is big, and the courtroom has been packed 90% capacity the entire time. Well, that's positive. I mean, I would assume that most of the people there are on the side of the farmer and not on the side of the prosecution, correct?
Yeah, in fact, they've been telling people who are walking in, the court officers, this is another thing that falls under the free speech. They're telling people who have shirts to take them off or cover them up. They told a teenage girl to take off her button because it said raw milk me. And they told a woman I don't want to say that they told her to take her shirt off, but it kind of sounded like they did. But she had a t-shirt on it that said "Got Initiative." And they said that was a reference. So that she couldn't come in wearing that and she had to take it off. And they told Mark McAfee to cover up his "Got Raw Milk" shirt.
Well, does anybody need any more, proof that the courtrooms are not what you think it is? It's not about equal justice or anything like that. It's about admiralty law at UCC. When you cross that little wooden barrier, the banisters there, and you go stand up at the podium, you're crossing and boarding a ship. The judge is now the captain. Why do you think they do what they want to do on their ship? They don't care. What do they say? It's my courtroom. Sometimes you'll even hear them say, it's my ship! Bam, 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 and bang their gavel. You think they're playing when they say it's my ship. Oh, he's making a cute reference to him being a captain of a ship. No, he's literally telling you it's his ship.
Yeah, it's not a nautical reference, really. It's admiralty law. That's right. Maritime law. And, it exists outside of the Constitution completely. And here's another one. Now, there is defense testimony from one of his buying club members. And also, maybe you didn't mention this, they're not allowed to say herd share. That's also the basis of this thing. So they're not allowed to say, and they're doing this because they want the jury to believe that it's a retail establishment and that he broke a law and that he needs a license. And they're really hiding everything from this poor jury. But anyway, this guy, Joe, had to take the stand, and they asked him how he came about to seek the farm's food. And he says, we were looking for natural milk sources. Okay, so he knows to go around the words. In 2004, the defense lawyer said, did you come and meet the Hershbergers? Yes. We asked if we could be part of the farm. He couldn't say herd share. Did you have a reason? Now, he can't say for health reasons because they can't talk about raw milk or the health or that. So he almost he can't really tell the truth about why he sought the raw milk. So he says, my son was not thriving. And the prosecution yelled out, objection. And Judge Guy Reynolds said, sustained. And so then the person on the witness stand said, we wanted access to unprocessed food that was higher quality that would not be available from stores. Objection. Sustained. Strike the answer. The jury is to ignore that. Literal conversation that came out of the courtroom today.
And that's absolutely unacceptable. I mean, how do you not look at this whole thing? And it's a mockery. It's a sham. It really is. It's
idiocracy.
It is. And how does the jury? If I were the jury, the jury should stand up to the judge, and they should rule in favor of the farmer. And then what? Then what's the judge going to do? No, I order you. I overturn you. Make them act like a tyrant. If they're gonna be tyrants, don't let them hide behind the facade with the white gloves and pretending they're gonna. Oh, it's okay. We're gonna give you a fair trial. No, you know what? If you were in the jury, or if you ever in a jury in the future, and you're in a situation like this, okay, just think about this. Okay, I'm not telling you. I'm not instructing you on how to act. Okay, but just think about it. Use a little bit of common sense. That's all. Because this is absolutely unacceptable. They asked the guy, why did you do it? Well, okay, I'm not allowed to lie, right? Because if I lie, technically if I lie under oath, I'm perjuring myself, right? Yes. Well, can I be forced to perjure myself? Isn't that against the law? Aren't my rights protected? Oh, that's right. When you go to court, a lot of your constitutional rights go out the window. Most people don't understand that stuff. People need to understand what's going on. They bring a witness on, and the guy can't say, well, my kid was thriving. He wasn't thriving on regular milk. Objection. Sustained. Okay, so we wanted to get unprocessed food without preservatives in it. which, okay, that's what it is. Objection, sustained, strike it from the record, and the jury is ordered to ignore that. How insane is that? It's the truth. It's what happened. But you know what, jury? You're not allowed to know the truth, and you know what? You're ordered to ignore the truth. The fact is this, okay? Doesn't matter if they want healthy food or not. You're not allowed to know that. The only thing you're allowed to know is what we tell you. And, of course, I'm pretending to be the prosecution/judge. Look, this is all fixed. This is a joke. This is totally a joke. This guy's getting ramrodded for absolutely nothing. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't staged anger or anything like that. You can ask Heather. She was writing this article until very shortly before she came on air with me tonight. She was working her butt off on this article. Okay, so this isn't like staged fake anger. I'm genuinely pissed off about this because I'm tired of seeing people getting ramrodded. And I'm tired of people, juries, accepting it and going, well, the judge told us. So what? Stand up to the judge. He can't throw you in jail. You're the jury. Guess what? It's the one time that you have the option to stand up to the judge, because when you're on the other side, you don't. Okay, so take the option, take the opportunity while you can. And if you were in it, trust me, I wouldn't worry about what happens if I'm ever in front of him in the future. You don't think that would be a conflict of interest? And any smart attorney that you talk to about it would get that thrown, it would at least get you thrown out of, your case probably thrown out of court, or it would have to get postponed for a while because he couldn't be your judge, especially if he got into a fight with you as a juror, not too long before or in the past. Use your brains. I mean, sometimes I'm sure it happens, but a lot of times those are maybe people that don't understand the system or they don't have a good attorney to look out for them. The point is, don't be afraid to stand up to these people. At the end of the day, he's just some dude in a robe. What happens when he leaves the courthouse and he takes his robe off and he's not sitting up on top of that big chair anymore in front of the big desk with his little gavel in his hand, tapping the desk, tap, 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 tap. Sustained, tap, 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 I'm the judge. What happens when he leaves? Guess what? He's just like you and me, ladies and gentlemen. He breathes the same air. He eats the same food. Probably shops at some of the same food stores that you shop at. Okay? He's not special. So if you're in the opportunity, if you have that opportunity, if you're in the position where if you're in the jury and you get instructed, well, I'm the judge and I instruct you. That's not the way the court system's supposed to work. Understand how the court system's supposed to work so they can't manipulate you. And stand up to them, because it's the only time you have the opportunity to do so. Trust me. I mean, you can when you're arguing back and forth, but when you're standing on the deck of his ship and he's acting as captain, you have less leverage than you do when you're actually in the jury. I'd like to see him throw a whole jury in jail for standing up to him. Then what would happen? I would love to, that would just that would turn things on its head. That would actually cause more of a ruckus. So let that happen. That would actually be better, right?
Yes. If you don't mind, can I mention something different?
Sure. Go ahead. We got about a minute before we go to break.
Okay. I just got a message that Liz Reitzig is trying to get a hold of us, and I'm not sure, but it looks like the call number isn't working, and I'm not sure what happened there. But she is one of my food freedom heroes that I'm talking about. I saw her speak in Washington D.C. The very first time I ever tried raw milk, I went to a peaceful protest. She's the one providing all these updates. She's the one doing this. She went out there and she's trying to get a hold to get on the show, and maybe she has something. Yeah,
I can bring her on during the break. That's not a problem.
That would be awesome. I love her, and I got to see her when I went out there, and I'm so happy with what she does, and I can tell you more about her websites too. Yeah,
we'll bring her on. I just have the I have the phones disconnected. That's why.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll connect them and bring her up during the break, and we'll get her on. That's even better. Look,
yes.
Live updates from people on the ground, boots on the ground, people that know what's going on.
She would know.
I can't ask for anything better than that. That's yes. Perfect. So, in fact, I'm going to pause this right there because the break's sneaking up on us, Heather. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere when we get back. We're going to have a special guest. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, Heather, I want to continue with this list, and we're working on bringing the lady up on the phone lines that was calling in that Heather was talking about going into break, but we're technical difficulties, cell phones here and there. So we're still working on it. If we can't bring her on tonight, I definitely want to have her on, or at least try to get her on one of the other broadcasts if somebody wants to have her on, because I think more people need to be talking about this stuff, and get you on as well, Heather, because more people need to be talking about this stuff, and the truth needs to get out there. People need to know what's going on, the reality of the situation. A jury, this isn't even a fair trial. Let's be honest. Is this really even a fair trial? No, it's not. I mean, you can't say anything. It's being stricken from the record, and the jury's being instructed not to hear, remember basically what you were told. I mean, can you imagine that? It's as if they're treating the jury as if they were almost like human USB memory sticks, and they're going in and they're wiping their memory. That's but they want them to do it to themselves, basically, because they can't do it to them yet. Wait till they put microchips and stuff in people. You think I'm kidding? Wait till they start microchipping people, and then they don't have to instruct you anymore. The judge could just hit a button, beep, and then you just forget what the guy just said. Can you imagine that? That's coming, I'm sure. Ugh, this is a mockery of justice. It really is, Heather. Is this not even legitimate? Not that, if you understand, I know the legal system and UCC and all that, but I mean, this isn't, even if you think it is the way it is, if you play by if you buy into the whole idea of what they feed you, this is completely out of bounds. And where's the media on this? Crickets. It's only the independent media. I mean, they're not even talking about this guy as if he actually committed a crime and going, they're just not bringing it up because they know if they bring it up, it's going to piss people off. That's why. Mm-hmm. And how many people has this angered already?
I would say a lot of people are angry because the number of people who are seeking unprocessed, clean foods is growing, and they're trying to quell this very quickly. But it's growing. And I mean, another thing that's going on this week is the March Against Monsanto. That's another humongous food freedom event going on. This is going to be the largest peaceful protest worldwide ever. If that tells you anything about the shift.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure they'll try to have agent provocateurs out there with their little black boots. Ladies and gentlemen, look for people that are running around in law enforcement type boots with black hoods on, pretending to be the quote-unquote black bloc. We want to break windows. Look, let's be serious, okay? Only morons, trolls, and cops break windows during a riot, okay? And usually it's the cops that do it when, the undercover ones. And then, of course, there's also been video where you see the cops just walking around in their riot gear smashing windows with their little sticks.
I know what you're talking about.
Hey, surveillance cameras work both ways, guys, just so you know.
They walk around with bandanas around them, and then they start pushing people around. People are already warning about that because, a lot of us have been writing about the March Against Monsanto, and Daisy Luther is one of them, and she's been finding out all these connections, like with Monsanto has with Blackwater, contracting them for security reasons. I mean, they've got a mercenary army behind them.
Yeah, that's
and
not
also.
Creepy.
Huh?
That's not creepy. Tell me they're not the Umbrella Corporation. If anybody's ever seen Resident Evil or played the video game Resident Evil, Monsanto is the Umbrella Corporation. That's the evil corporation that created the zombies, and they ended up creating like the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, that's Monsanto.
Yes,
and they had their own little mercenary army. So, just saying.
That is a very good analogy, actually. And they already have a social media war going. They're taking down people's posts. They're hiding things. They're sending out like hacked messages saying that the event is canceled, which of course nobody has ever said that. And there's all kinds of weird, creepy things happening because, it was initiated online because that's where most people are. So that's the biggest way to reach most people. But the actual action takes place not only on Saturday, but it's supposed to inspire people to grow their own and choose organic and local and do something for themselves and stop putting money into that godforsaken company.
That's what we have to do, because then they go after, they fund and do other things to go after small farmers like the gentleman that we've been talking about tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Break sneaking up on us. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And I am pleased to bring on our guest, our special guest for this evening, for a few minutes, really quick, for an on-the-ground, boots-on-the-ground report. Her name is Liz Reitzig, and she's going to give us an update, literally, instead of, third party or anything like that. We're going to find it right from someone who was there. So, Liz, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
So, what do you feel, because I know you have a limited amount of time, what do you feel is the most important info you have to get out to the audience today about what's going on with this trial?
Well, I think we have a pretty bad connection. I'm having trouble hearing everything you're saying, but I think you're just asking for an update with the trial. And basically, for 3.5 days, the prosecution wasted time going over little details that didn't matter, having the witnesses read the documents that they signed, and just going over ridiculous amounts of data there. And then finally, today, they finally rested their case in the afternoon, and the defense was able to call some of their witnesses forward. And in doing so, the state really revealed a lot of their true colors. Like, even before the trial started this morning, the judge ruled that nobody could use the word liberty in relation to this, because one of the things the defense was doing is they were when they were questioning witnesses, they were saying that, a man's liberty is at stake here. So the judge said that they just could not use that word. And it kind of got worse from there. But then the witnesses for the defense really lit things up again. So one of the first witnesses was Vernon's dad, and he got the whole courtroom laughing a couple of times. And then one of the members of the farm, he was a witness as well, and he really cleared some things up. But again, what kept happening, what we kept seeing over and over, was just that how adamant the state was and how controlling they are and how controlling the judge is. It really revealed some true colors of them.
The details of this case so far, from what I've heard, are just astounding. The words, the phrases that can't be used. I know you're right. The connection is a little fuzzy, and I know your time is limited. I'm going to have to get you back on for some period of time, maybe a half hour or an hour or something, to discuss what's going on and pick your brain about this whole food freedom thing and what you feel is important and everything else. Do you have any websites, Liz, that you want to get out there, and that people can go to check on updates for the whole court case, the trial, anything that's going on, and even support him, because they need to support the farmer, in my opinion. So how can they go do that, and what are the websites that you got?
Well, our website is farmfoodfreedom.org, and you can go on there and find out more about the work we do overall and more about Vernon's trial. And then we're teaming up with Derek J., and he's with Peace News Now, so that's peacenewsnow.com, and he's doing the live streaming and the live tweeting from the courtroom. So if you want immediate updates as it happens, go to Peace News Now, sign up for their Twitter, sign up for their Facebook, and you'll see what's happening as it happens. You can also follow the live stream, which is justin.tv/farmfoodfreedom. So we've got pretty much all the bases covered. And ways to support Vernon, I think Vernon would be the first one to say, go find your local farmer and start buying direct from them. If you want to come out, there's still one more day left of the trial. Come out, join us in the courtroom, join us in the theater. And, there's always monetary donations. You can donate to Vernon's legal defense.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, Liz, I'm gonna get with you behind the scenes. I'm gonna find a time that works for both of us. I'm gonna get you back on the broadcast for a longer period of time to pick your brain. Again, I thank you so much for coming on last minute. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and thanks so much for covering this case. I really appreciate that. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, it's really important. It's a super important topic. So yeah, I will definitely get with you. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Liz Reitzig. We need to support this farmer. And again, thank God for people like Liz coming on last minute. I know she's been covering this thing the whole day, and it's 11:30 here. I don't know if they're over in Wisconsin. Was it 2 hours behind? So even if it's only 9:30, I mean, if they're up at court usually starts really early. Well, like 8, even earlier. I would assume, right? Usually like 8 o'clock, I guess. Whatever time the judge, I guess, feels that it's going to start. But so she's been up at least like 12 hours working on this, and she's nice enough to come on air tonight. I can't thank her enough. Liz Reitzig, ladies and gentlemen. Heather, thank you for getting on the back end there, getting her on, and that's 2 people. Now that's 2 separate people you have telling you, ladies and gentlemen, what Heather said earlier, and now Liz backed it up. That the word liberty isn't even permitted in the court, and I know the phone connection, because it was a cell phone, it was a little choppy there, and it got a little better at the end. I noticed. But could that be coincidental? I don't know. But it always seems whenever there's certain touchy subjects that so you try to bring certain people on in certain areas. It's funny when the cell phone reception seems to be crappy until the very end of the phone call, and then all of a sudden the cell phone reception picks up. But it is what it is. This whole thing is pretty. We live in 1984. We live in bizarro world. I mean, we don't live quite in 1984 the way it was in the movie, because it's not that in your face yet, but it's on its way there. It's more of a hidden version of that, I would say. What do you think, Heather?
Yeah, don't you just wake up sometimes and have a burst of clarity every now and then when you think about, doesn't it just stick out like a sore thumb sometimes? I mean, because I've been trying so hard to get my health back on track, and you don't have any kind of freedom at all if you don't have food or health. And that's why I picked this front mostly. I mean, there's a million things me and you could talk about, and things that we've each studied on our own. But this one always comes up for me because it's the most precious, private thing. It's just sacred. And if you don't have it, you have nothing. And I just think about all the ways that I try to fix myself, fix my health. And the uphill battle that I have to go through to get those foods. And I want to echo Liz's words about finding your local farmer. And if you have one nearby, please take advantage of that right now.
I agree. Support your local farmers. Obviously, hopefully they're organic. Maybe not all of them are. So try to find the organic farmers. But definitely support them. Support the little guy. This is so frustrating, because it's like people don't. There's a lot of people that don't really care about this. They'll say, "Well, what does it mean? I don't really drink milk. No, I don't really like dairy, or I don't really. This stuff's bad for you." Okay, if you don't like milk, that's fine. Look, I drink almond milk. I don't drink cow's milk at all. I don't. I stopped drinking it a very long time ago. I drink almond milk. I'm still doing this broadcast, am I not? Because it affects everybody. What happens when one day they say, "Hey, almond milk is bad. You can't have raw almond milk. Oh, that's terrible. I'm going to send the SWAT team to get you." Or a variety of other things, which they will. Mm-hmm. Then what? Oh, well, then it affects me. I didn't care back then, but now I'm pissed. Oh, well, it's amazing how when the shoe's on the other foot, it's completely different. People need to get angry about this. Kissinger talked about controlling food. You control the food, you control the world. It's that simple.
Yeah. What I say is I'm trying to reach out to certain belief systems and groups, because I really want us to get together, because they're trying to unite globally against us, and they're causing division everywhere. And when you get so wrapped up in your own personal thing that you can't even reach out and help someone else, we're screwed. Because, so for instance, I say, vegans, we need you. And sometimes I'll say, preppers, we need you. Because a lot of times it's the vegans will be like, good, raw milk is bad. I've seen these online fights before. Most of the vegans I've met are awesome people, but I'm just saying sometimes when one party provokes a fight about why meat is good, and then it's mudslinging back and forth, and it's incredible to me. And then you've got these preppers who could care less about GMOs. A lot of them. I mean, some of them are getting into healthier stuff, and sometimes I've actually seen closets full of Hostess and ramen noodles. And I don't know about you, Popeye, but I don't know how far you can get on that kind of stuff, like how you can sustain yourself. And it's like if you can't even walk to your mailbox without getting winded, I don't know what you're preparing for, really.
Yeah, that I see. I can't eat that crap, and I used to. Well, I never really. I've always been mindful of what I ate since I was younger. When I was a teenager, on the younger aspect, like 13, 14, I ate McDonald's. I was a fat little kid. I was a little porker, and I used to eat that stuff. But I'm very mindful about. I don't eat any of that garbage. I don't eat ramen noodles. My wife actually used to eat ramen noodles, and when I started paying attention to like what was actually, I paid attention somewhat, but not really until past, I would say, 2.5, 3 years. I've really ramped it up from what I used to be about with my food choices and stuff, and I won't let her get ramen noodles. She got pissed at me. Now she doesn't care because I found like an organic version of them. But she doesn't. We use fresh everything. Except for like regular, like pasta. But we get organic pasta and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's still fresh. It's just not. It's in the box. But we no more of that crap. And it actually it even for myself, it took me a little bit of getting used to. Like when I changed over, I completely changed over the way I eat. I actually have to thank my father for getting me to almond milk because I was drinking regular milk and I was all jammed up trying to figure out what I was going to do because I wanted to stop drinking it. And I was like, how do I eat cereal? Mm-hmm. And he was like, you should try almond milk. And I was really hesitant about it. And he pushed me over the edge, and he brings it with him because he was drinking it for health reasons and stuff. And he came over and visited me, and he had some with him. And I tried a little bit, and I was like, wow, this stuff's actually not bad. And then it's a transition. So it takes a little bit of time to transition. You know what I mean? I get that people are hesitant about it. There's still things that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do. But I can honestly tell you, I used to be a huge meat eater. Like, I used to eat meat 3 or 4 times a week. My wife, too, loved it. I mean, I still like steak or a good burger, but I have to make it myself. And I've become so picky about finding out what happened to the animal that created that steak and how it was fed and how the animal itself was treated and everything else that I actually can only eat meat about once or twice a month if I'm lucky now. And the thought of going and buying just a regular burger at like some crappy restaurant, I don't know where it's coming from. And I literally have troubles. Like, my wife and I like to go to this diner, and I know they use good, like really good ingredients. I still have a problem ordering food at the diner now if I go there because I'm like, I don't know. And my wife's like, really? And I'm like, look, I don't know. And I know the people, I know the people that run the place. I know they don't use crappy food. This is like a really, really, they use real food. You know what I'm saying? It's a good establishment. I still have an issue with picking, food there now, and it's because of my own thinking. While I'm looking at the menu, and I'm like, how is this animal treated, or what did they feed it, or you know what I mean? Blah 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 blah. So now I've become very picky. And through that, it's rubbing off on my wife because she's learning a lot about like GMO foods now too, just from me doing the broadcast and stuff and hearing certain broadcasts I've done here or there, and or she'll hear me, editing the archives up and putting them up on YouTube and stuff. And she's more health conscious too, and she's a yoga instructor, so that led her to becoming a healthier eater. And eating better. It's just amazing how you feel when you stop taking processed garbage and all that other stuff into your system. It's ridiculous. I'm going to cut us off, though, because we got a break sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Final segment coming up. Again, check out Heather's latest article for this whole mess over at activistpost.com. All her work is over at activistpost.com. Check out our other website, too. Is it Natural Blaze, Heather? Naturalblaze.com? So
yes.
Activistpost.com and naturalblaze.com. Go check out both websites. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment, and Heather has a list of websites, including some of the ones that Liz was trying to get on air. Like I said, it's funny how right at the very end, after, just as she's getting ready to go, the cell phone signal cleared up. Interesting. But it is. I think it's more Murphy's Law than anything else. So Heather worked diligently behind the scenes with other people, namely Andrew. Thank you. And the two of them got a bunch of websites for her to give out. So the last few minutes, I'm going to give Heather the floor to give out all the info, including your own info. So give yourself some shameless plugs, young lady.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, again, actually, I'll tell you about another website to support Vernon Andrew Mastrocola is one of Vernon's dear friends, and he's been communicating with Activist Post for a long time, helping us to get updates and try to get connected with Vernon more. And you can also support Vernon through the website vernonhershberger.com. And donations made on that website go directly to him completely. Andrew's website, where he does a lot of food freedom updates, is foodfreedomusa.org. And also, he says something about okay, I lost it. I'm scrolling on this little chat window. But it sounded like it was another update about more Vernon news, so I can try to update accordingly, in the next few days or something. And then
that definitely, by the way, if anything major happens, let me know. And even if it's during the weekend or something, and we have to schedule for whatever during the week or whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll figure something out and get the information. Even if it's not on my show, if I have to give someone else the exclusive, I don't care. It's not about me; it's about the info. So yeah, definitely keep me informed.
Yes, and Liz's website again is farmfoodfreedom.org. But as she said, most of the live updates are being tweeted by Derek J. Freeman of Peace News Now. And you can look him up easily. I'm pretty sure it's peacenewsnow.com. And he's been also doing a lot of video work from the trial location, which is why we have streaming. Otherwise, we wouldn't really hear anything that's going on. So if you go to my article on activistpost.com, which talks about liberty not being allowed to be mentioned in the Vernon Hershberger trial, there's a streaming embedded stream that you can watch, and there's a little link under it if you want to go and see the archives or it's not live for some reason. Then you can catch up, have it playing in the background throughout the day if you want to try to hear some of the arguments going back and forth. So, all of this is recorded and documented for anyone who's wondering.
It should be recorded and documented. It's just, it's right in your face tyranny. There's no other way to describe it. And they're going after the food. I think you put it best in the first hour. You said this was an act of war. It is. That this is what invading armies do. They would lay siege to a city and they would cut off the supply lines first. Right?
Yes, and they would adulterate food, for instance, putting tares among the wheat or pouring salt over the land or simply just taking. And we see a lot of that, all three of those things.
Oh, they do salt the earth. That's where and people, what do they salt the earth for? I don't get it, because it destroys the soil. And that's what they want. They don't want people to be able to plant food. See, if they take away, very, very old, simple concept that's understood all across the board and throughout the ages, that if you starve a civilization or a group of individuals, you will have utter control over them, because eventually everybody needs to eat. Everybody. It's one of those constants that we all have to deal with. It's like we don't get out of this life alive. I often make the joke to lighten the mood up. Everybody needs to lighten up a little bit because none of us make it out of here alive. Well, it's one of those constants that we have to deal with. You have to eat. And if they can control the food, and if they can control how much you put in your body, and they have it and you don't, guess who's going to be big and strong? And guess who's going to be tiny and weak?
That is an old war tactic.
Right? It's very simple.
Yeah.
Old school. Very simple.
Yeah, you keep the enemies as your slaves. They're part of your booty, your loot. So you keep them weak on a very weak diet with very little, and you keep them working so they can't pay attention or figure out how to rise above, and then you keep your own guys strong. That's as old as time.
Yeah, and it's exactly what's going on right now. That's why people need to pay attention and wake up. Heather, we're running out of time. We got about 40 seconds before we head on out. I want you to plug all your sites again, and where everybody can follow you and listen to your work and what you have to say, because it's important that they do so. So go ahead.
Okay, if you guys aren't tired of hearing about it yet, Heather Callaghan, write for activistpost.com. Not just food freedom stuff, tons of news on that website. We also have a lot of really good writers like Brandon Turbeville, he writes about Codex, among other things. Then we've got naturalblaze.com. Natural Health website is very empowering. So that's more on the solutions positive side, not just news, but other things that you can do for yourself, which is why we wanted to start it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. See, I like solutions. That's one of my favorite things. Heather, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. Remember, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Stand up and do something. I'll see you again tomorrow night. I'm out of here.